everyone. This is Kevin Jackson coming to you from the Bahl and Gaynor Cybersecurity Risk Committee. Here's our agenda for today. First, we're going to talk about the cyber threat landscape 6 months later. Yes, it's been 6 months since our last cybersecurity work from home video. We're going to update the threat landscape and talk about what some of the new challenges and risks are in the world of cybersecurity. Then we're going to focus in on some specific threats, specifically beyond phishing. We're going to look at some of the multidimensional fraud risks that are out there right now and some of the deep fakes that are being used by attackers. Then we're going to again talk about practicing digital distancing. We brought that term up 6 months ago as a way to help mitigate risks to Bahl and Gaynor. We're going to revisit digital distancing. And then finally, we're going to discuss data protection at home, the importance of data confidentiality and data privacy in the work from home environment. Let's begin by talking about an updated view of the cybersecurity threat landscape. Unfortunately, it always tends to get worse than the last time we talked cybersecurity, and that's no different right now. Since we last met, there have been some significant developments in the world of supply chain cyber attacks and in the world of business email compromise, or BEC. Around the Christmas timeframe, there was a tremendous shift in the cybersecurity world, where a massive number of cyber attacks were successfully committed by attackers who didn't attack individual companies, but instead attacked IT vendors who sold software into many, many thousands of companies around the world. So they were infected, all of these companies, through their IT and software supply chain. These supply chain cyber attacks have represented sort of a sea change in how cybersecurity is considered. A new emphasis on vendor management and a new emphasis on just how much risk there can be just in daily operations has arisen. Similarly, business email compromise is still on the rise. There are so many different ways that business email can be compromised. It's beyond just phishing, and we're going to talk a little bit more about multidimensional attacks and deepfakes in just a moment. But it remains the number one threat vector of all across the world, across the entire cyber landscape, is looking at business email compromise. Because email inboxes are still open. They need to be. We still get communications from almost anyone, anywhere, and making sure they're valid, making sure they are appropriate, making sure they're safe is still the number one priority in cybersecurity. Phishing and social engineering attacks are, of course, embedded in the business email compromise attacks and in many other types, such as spreading malware, ransomware, and other types. So phishing and social engineering attacks will always be on the list. You can never be too vigilant when it comes to those types of attacks. Data leaks and exposure, this is a particularly strong focused area when it comes to the work from home environment. It's very important to always be aware that the information we access from home that is work-related for Bahl and Gaynor is still private and still needs to remain confidential, as we'll address later in this training. Accidental or incidental data leaks are a big problem. Purposeful or intentional data leaks or data exposure, sometimes done in the name of business efficiency or productivity, are also a significant threat. Bahl and Gaynor has compliance requirements for data protection and data security that, regardless of working from home or working from office, must be met. Let's discuss the cybersecurity threat world that goes beyond phishing into multidimensional fraud techniques and deepfakes. We're looking at a world now where there is a merger of technical and internal computer attacks with human-based attacks. In other words, a very volatile cocktail where advanced persistent threats like malware sitting on a computer or on a server are combined with phishing and business email compromise attacks where fake emails or taking over email accounts can be leveraged. And then social engineering, which can be phone calls, which can be snail mail, which can be pieces of paper and notes left in an office by someone who has access, which can be a USB drive left in a parking lot that's picked up and inserted to deliver some type of information to help fool people. All of these things are combined with new techniques like voice faking, voice modulation to make someone's voice on the phone sound like someone else, and even additional fake phone calls from attackers, all being merged together to create a new deep fake type attack where fraud, illegal wire transfers, changing of account information, and outright theft can occur because of this merger of different attack types. These are complex attacks, but unfortunately they can lead to really significant negative results. There have been examples of large-scale theft, large-scale fraud because of these complex combined attacks and deepfakes, where the usual ways of trying to detect a fraudulent wire transaction or a fraudulent request to move money or change accounts go undetected because of a complex network of phishing, business email compromise, and social engineering. So how do we combat these complex attacks and deep fakes? Well, we focus again on practicing digital distancing and on outright vigilance. We need to expect deep fakes in the modern business world, especially in an arena where private information and financial information is critical, such as here at Bahl & Gaynor. We need to be suspicious, even more than before, of anything out of the ordinary, of communication, of requests, of possible fraudulent information, and looking out for deep fakes, things that seem okay, but that may not be quite right. When it comes to Bahl & Gaynor data, when it comes to access to Bahl & Gaynor systems or information or personnel or facilities, we need to be extra digitally distant. We want to make sure to keep our work and personal computing separate. That's a significant part of the threat space. It's much easier for attackers to get access to and conduct fraudulent operations within personal email, personal systems, than it is Bahl & Gaynor systems and Bahl & Gaynor access, where there are a lot of additional monitoring and safety and cybersecurity tools in place. We want to be extra vigilant when it comes to being aware of how social engineering works, how people in the real world, via voice, via social media, even contacts in person when that begins again, can actually be threat actors looking to gather information, looking to perform reconnaissance on Bahl & Gaynor in order to support or be a part of an illegal attack. And when it comes to physical items, we want to be extra vigilant as well. Consider the aforementioned flash drive attack. This is still very much a thing where threat actors will create flash drives with malware or with suspicious information on it and label it with your own company's logo and leave it in a parking lot and tempt someone to pick it up and insert it thinking, oh wow, someone must have dropped this. Or with a partner's logo and name, or anything that might tempt someone to take action and corrupt their own systems and give an attack avenue for the bad guys. Be very aware of peripherals, printers that plug into your systems, monitors. These things should be done carefully, knowing their source. Random websites, random applications are still a big threat. When surfing the web, avoid random pop-ups. Don't go to websites that sort of insert themselves in front of you that you know you didn't go to. These redirects and those kinds of transmissions via internet are just as dangerous, if not more so, than ever before. If you're ever offered an application on a website that you didn't ask for, always say no. When you're installing maybe a new tool or a new application that has a bunch of additional features you can add, if you don't need to, choose not to. Stay digitally distant. Practicing digital distancing is just as important as practicing social distancing when it comes to cybersecurity. And finally, let's talk about data protection at home. Bahl & Gaynor data confidentiality and privacy is of the utmost importance. It really is the point of cybersecurity within the company, is making sure that our partners and of course our clients' data and information is always secure, regardless of whether our location is at work or at home. So we want to make sure to preserve, especially when collaborating and transmitting and transferring information, the confidentiality and the integrity of Bahl & Gaynor data. So first, let's talk a little bit about secure collaboration and document transfer. We have many tools in place to support secure transfer. Dropbox has been in use for some time, but we're actually transitioning away from Dropbox now, more to using OneDrive as our secure collaboration tool. Encrypted email is, of course, just as important. When dealing with sensitive information, personal and private information, financial information, using the encrypted features of our email system will allow no one in the middle, no technical attacker, to be able to slide in between that email transfer and read that information. It's important to know that paper faxes and using old-fashioned fax machines are not necessarily a secure way to transfer information. Now, you can hear from the SEC that fax machines are still considered secure, but that really only means they're secure technically from point to point. On the ends of the transfers, especially when you're faxing something somewhere and you don't know for sure if the person on the other end is waiting right there at the fax machine to receive that piece of paper, that is a very insecure point in time. All kinds of eFaxes, such as our Concord eFax system, are much more secure. You're going basically into an electronic delivery system where fax structure is still used, but you're using the internet, just as email does, to deliver the information. So you have encryption, and you have a great deal more security because the information's going to a specific person instead of to a machine sitting in an office. Of course, we want to always stress, and this is a part of digital distancing, the clear desk, clear screen principle. When we have sensitive information on our computers, that's Bahl and Gaynor data, Bahl and Gaynor partners or clients, we want to make sure that we don't leave that information exposed. We keep our desks clear of information that passersby, even in our own homes, could see. And we keep our screens clear. We lock our screens when we're away from them. We're making sure that there's no incidental data exposure or data leakage, even in the work from home environment. Once again, passwords really do matter. We don't necessarily talk a lot about passwords, but they are still the first line of defense, along with multi-factor authentication in many cases. Using strong passwords on our home Wi-Fi systems, on our home networks, on our home devices and on our personal devices, and of course, as you are required to when it comes to access within Bahl and Gaynor business systems, this is critical and should always be paid attention to. And still, it's never a good idea to store passwords written down. It's better to use a password vault or a password safe, like an application on your smartphone or on a computer, where these things are kept encrypted and then one password needs to be remembered to access them. And let's not forget hygiene when it comes to your home networks and home devices. We want to make sure when we are working from home that there is no easy way for an attacker to access what we're doing on our home networks because we don't have proper security in place. Having updates on our home devices, having proper security and passwords, and not having obviously named networks on our home networks, all of this helps digital distancing when it comes to cybersecurity. In these areas, if you have questions, that's something you can ask Glenn Warden. You can ask myself. You can ask members of the risk committee, especially when it comes to all those topics within secure collaboration and transfer. Glenn stands ready to help if you have issues or questions in that regard. When it comes to things like clear desk, clear screen and how you implement that. When it comes to password strength, feel free to reach out to Glenn or to a member of the risk committee for more information. Thank you all for your time and attention during this training video. Once again, if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to any member of the Cyber Risk Committee or to Glenn Warden. Thank you so much and hope you have a great rest of your day.